Hi, it's Carrie, and this is the second installment of the Rice Around the World video. This week we are making Indian Pilau rice. It is a version of Indian rice that is used as a side dish very often for some sort of curry dish. It's very fragrant, it has lots of interesting spices in it, and it's yellow. So we're going to talk about why it's yellow in just a second. So in your kit that you will be picking up or have picked up, you will get 2 cups of basmati rice. You will also get 2 onions. You will get your black mustard seed, your turmeric, your cardamom and cloves, and your cinnamon sticks. I did not put in salt. Most people have salt at home. And I also did not put in the butter or the oil. So those are things that you'll have to add in from your house. So let's kind of get started as to what we're going to be doing. So there's a couple of different steps to this. The one step is the rice, and the other step is cooking the onion. So the first thing you want to do with the rice is you're going to wash it. And in the first video, I spoke a little bit about washing rice ahead of time. You want to wash it and soak it, and that's just to make sure that you get the starch from the outside of the grains of rice and take the polish off of them. So I'm going to show you how to wash your rice, and then we'll be soaking that for about 30 minutes before we cook it. This recipe calls for a lot of water. It calls for 8 cups of boiling water in which to cook your rice. That is basically a buffer so that if you aren't experienced in making rice, or you are a little nervous about making rice, maybe you've had some mishaps in the past, it will kind of allow for you to cook the rice and not be worried about whether or not it's burning or you have enough water or the heat is the right. With 8 cups of water, you really can't go wrong. I make rice quite often, so I have a pretty good handle on how much heat to put on and how long to cook things. So I'm going to make my rice the way I would normally make my rice, with a cup and a third of water for every cup of rice. Because I'm soaking it, that I move it to a cup and a third instead of a cup and a half, because the rice will absorb some of that water. If you want to follow the instructions exactly and use 8 cups of water and drain the rice, absolutely fine, not a problem. If I feel like with the less water and not draining it, it will be a little bit more intensely flavored. I think draining that rice, all the water out of the rice, will wash away a lot of the flavor. So, but either way, completely up to you. So we're going to first of all wash our rice, and then we will get our onions started. We are now going to rinse our rice. The first rinse we're going to do fairly quickly, because once those starches are released, we don't want them to get sucked into the rice, because they will soak up some of this water. So we're just going to rinse it really quick and drain the excess water as much as we can. We're going to do this probably 3 more times here. You're not going to get completely clear water, but it will be much clearer than it is now. So we're just looking for pretty clear water. Probably 3 or 4 rinses will get you to that spot. And we'll rinse again. And what we're doing is we're just agitating the rice very, very gently. We don't want to break the rice. We're just moving it around with our hands kind of very softly. Get that starch off the outside of the rice. And we are almost there. We're going to do 1 more rinse. And we're going to have a look at the water, and I'll show you the difference. The water is quite a bit clearer now than it was to begin with. Most of the starch is washed away from the rice, so that will keep it separate when it's washed. And we are going to cover the rice now with water, and we're going to leave that to soak for half an hour. Okay, so we had a little technical glitch there. I do have the onions in a pan, a nice wide pan, so they can be spread out a little bit. I've got them in there with 3 tablespoons of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter, and I've got them all coated in the olive oil and butter. And what I'm going to do is I want them to cook slowly, so I don't want it on a really high heat. I want them just to kind of cook very slowly. I'm going to be stirring them, not all the time, but occasionally. I want to make sure I give that a stir. Make sure that we build up the brown color on there without burning them. We don't want the burnt flavor of onion. We just want, we want a nice caramelization, a nice sweetness to our onion. So that's what we're going for. Once the onion is cooked, we'll add our black mustard seeds, and we will wait until those pop. When they pop, they release their fragrance and their flavors. So once those are popped, then this part of the dish will be done, and we can add the rice to it and stir it up, and it'll be fabulous. So we're just going to wait for these to cook a little bit. We're waiting for our rice to soak. So once we get to that point, to the next point, that will be cooking our rice. So we'll find out how that works in just a minute. So our onions have been cooking for a few minutes. You can see they're starting to get a little bit of color on them. We're cooking them really nice and slowly, making sure I stir them around occasionally. So we are almost there with the onions. I just wanted to give you a look at what they look like right now. Our onions are a nice golden color. Some of the pieces are nicely browned. This is the perfect time to add our black mustard seed. So we're going to add these, and if you listen, when you add yours, listen and watch, you'll see that they pop after they heat up. So we're going to add those. We're just going to watch them, wait for them to pop. Make sure they're in the oil there. Our rice has been soaking, and it is time to get that started here. So we're going to drain the rice into our sieve. Get as much of that water out as we can here. All right, that part is ready to go. We've got our water boiling on the stove top. At this point, if you do it according to the directions that I have given you, you'll have 8 cups of water boiling on the stove top. I have got 2 2/3 cup of water boiling on the stovetop. So we've got our rice. And this is the point where we're going to add in the rest of our spices. So we've got our turmeric. This is what's going to cause our rice to become yellow. We've got salt. I've got probably a little over a teaspoon of salt here. The recipe calls for a tablespoon, but that's if you're using 8 cups of water. If you only use 2 2/3 cup of water, only use about a teaspoon of salt, otherwise it'll be over salted. We're going to put our 2 cloves in. Those are cloves. And we're going to put our 3 cardamom seeds in and our pods. So we want to open those pods. I've opened these 2. To open it, you just want to press a spoon down on it a little bit. This one's going to be hard. There are little tiny seeds inside this pod, which we kind of want to release a little bit. Okay, so once you get those opened, they are ready to go in your rice. And we're also going to add our cinnamon sticks. And the cinnamon sticks, the cloves, and the cardamom pods will be taken out of the rice before you eat them. So we're going to add these things to our water. Goes the cinnamon sticks, our cardamom, and our cloves. And we're also going to add the salt and the turmeric. Turmeric will stain things, so if you're using a wooden spoon or something, you may want to know that it will potentially stain your spoon forever and ever. Usually the stain will go out, will eventually wash out, but it may not. So just beware. I'm having trouble getting all my rice out of my container. I think I picked the wrong container. Kind of got a lot of angles in it, so it's hard to get these. And rice is very tricky. When I was putting together the kits, the rice was full of static electricity and it kept jumping out. So that was fun. I've got most of it in there. It's probably good enough. We're going to give that a little bit of a stir just to make sure everything is where we want it. And we're going to cook this on a fairly low heat. We're going to cover it, and I'm going to check it after 12 minutes. It will most likely need a little longer than that, but I don't want it to run out of liquid either. So I like to check it about 12 minutes. And then if I need to, I can give it another 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So, yeah. So it's going to start smelling really good in here with all those flavors. It's been about 12 minutes, and I just checked my rice, and it looks perfectly done. So we're going to just kind of, we took it off the heat, and I'm just going to make sure that, yep, that water is gone. Maybe it was a little more time than I probably should have. Maybe a little bit, but it's a little stuck on the bottom, but that's okay. It'll just kind of scraping it off a little bit. So you can see our cinnamon stick, one of our cinnamon sticks. We're going to pull that out since we've got it right there. And that can just go in the garbage later. We'll find the rest here in a second. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the onions and all the oil and all that goodness right in there. That's going to help flavor our rice. So make sure we get it all the good stuff on the bottom. All those mustard seeds. And the oils. The oils will have some flavor in there too. So we're just going to combine those two, the rice and the onion. And that's going to help flavor that rice even more than it already is. There's another cinnamon stick, so I'm going to grab that quick. All right, and then as we're kind of going along here, we may find our cardamom. There's one. So yeah, you just want to make sure you find 3 cardamom pods. There's 2. And the 2 cloves, which are all in here somewhere. Before you eat it, or while you're eating it, if you pay attention to what you're eating, there's one of the cloves. So I've got another cardamom pod and a clove in here somewhere that I'll be digging around trying to find. But otherwise, that is it. This is our dish complete. And found another one of those cloves. Oops. So, all right, I think we have one more cardamom pod. Oh, and there it is. Voila, we got everything out of there that we needed to get out of there. That was fortunate. So this is finished. You can serve this with your favorite Indian dish. We like chicken curry at our house quite a bit. We make it regularly, so this would be a great side dish for that. You can eat it with anything you really want, I suppose. It's a really good, fragrant, yummy side dish. If you do have leftovers, it's made quite a bit of rice. For the 2 of us, it's way too much rice. But you can freeze this in smaller portions. And you just throw it in your freezer for those nights that maybe you're too busy to actually make the rice. You've got it made. You can pull it out, let it defrost, and there you go, warm it up. You've got some rice. So I hope you've enjoyed this Rice Around the World episode. And next month, we will be making another rice. We'll be making Persian tomato rice. So that sounds like a lot of fun and yumminess. So until then, have a good one.